everyone, welcome back to Waterhouse Forde.
Hi Oscar.
Hi.
So last week we cut the valve seats, and you remember we were struggling with one of them where it was it seemed very deep, and also had that nick in it, and we had to cut and cut and cut.
Yeah.
So one of our subscribers, Hooter700, saw that, and he provided me with some advice. Basically, he said that we need to cut the face of the head down to minimise the size of that actual angled face. I think it's going to be easier if we do a drawing, and I'll explain to you what we need to achieve. Okay, I don't know, I'm not a very good artist, but let me try. So if you imagine that's the face of the head, and then we have an angle, and then we have the channel that the valve stem rides in, like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what we've done is we've cut that face so that the head, or rather the head of the valve is now sitting at pretty much the same level as the head. Okay. So now, the other thing to note is that the profile of the valve is like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what he's saying is that the head needs to sit pretty much at this point here where the valve, if I blow this up, if I make this bigger and exaggerate it, that's the profile of the valve. What he's saying is that the head should pretty much be at this point here where the valve angle changes, right? And especially for exhaust valves. So exhaust valves need to be like that as much as possible. For your inlet valve, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit down, right? And that's because the exhaust valve wears more quickly than the inlet valve, because obviously the exhaust gases are more corrosive than the unburnt valves, unburnt gases, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So what we need to do, and what he's suggesting, if you noticed on the cutter last week, the cutter has, in fact, let's get one out.
Yeah.
So the cutter has, you see, this is the angled face that we were using for cutting, but it also has teeth on the flat side. And so what he's suggesting is that we turn the cutter around and we cut into the valve head a little bit here, sorry, the head face, so that what we'll essentially do is create like a recess underneath here. Obviously, again, I'm exaggerating it, but really just to create a bit more clearance around the head and the valve where they come together to create this little clearance that we need here. So we're going to give that a go. Sorry, it will also reduce the size of this angled face. You don't want that angle to be too big, because then it basically seals, it kind of over seals, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Bear in mind that when this valve lifts, you know, we might think of it lifting a lot, but actually it only lifts like a couple of millimeters.
Yeah.
So if you've got a long face that's sealing, there's a risk that not all the gases will get out before the valve actually closes again. So you want that sealing face to be not too small, but not too big either. And so by cutting down, you can see here, we're going to reduce the length of that face by, again, I've exaggerated this, but by an amount. I mean, in this drawing, it looks like it's about half, right? We probably won't cut that far down, but the point is that we'll cut that down. The other thing that that's going to do is it's going to remove that nick that we were fighting against last week as well, because we'll be cutting into that face. So, right, so that's what we're going to do today. So unfortunately, we probably won't get to installing all the valves today. This is a little bit of a setback, but it's better to get it right now and do it properly. We don't want to have to do it again later when things are not working properly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get set up, and then we'll give that a go. Okay. So we need to turn this over again. Get back to that one that was. Yeah, problem. Okay. So it was this one here. See, there's the nick. Right. And you see how wide that face is?
Yeah.
It's actually quite wide, isn't it? Okay, let's get the cutter set up. You know how to do that.
Yep.
So this is the face that we're talking about. Compare it to the one on the right. I'll just try and hold the camera still, but see how wide that one is and how narrow that one is. And this is what we need to try and address and basically take down the top so that it looks similar to that. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to go all that way because that looks like a lot of material we'd have to take off, but we're going to give it a go, see how it works and see what it looks like. And see if we can basically just minimize that, the width of that ceiling face over there. And again, what that'll do is take this nick off for us as well, which is what we're trying to achieve.
Surely if every time you have to do this, eventually this would get too weak and you'd have to get a new one.
Yeah, I mean in theory, although obviously it's a big chunk of steel, right? Well, cast iron. And you don't have to do this every time, that's the point. And how often does, I mean this engine, so this tractor is a 1952, and I don't know how many times this engine would have been rebuilt in its life, but probably only once or twice, if at all. I mean this could, yeah, I think it has been built at least once, because there's evidence of...
Yeah.
Right, let's clean that up. And see how we're doing. Okay. But you see how already we're seeing some clearance around that, around the head. Can you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's actually getting under.
No, we just need to open that up. So, okay, it's going well. This should keep going. I just wanted to make sure that we were actually making progress.
So would it be going like that?
Not even.
No.
Like that.
Okay.
Okay. Go some more. Almost there. I'm just going to spray it with air. Just... What we can see now is that that perpendicular face is now exposed. Do you see? Look on the
Oh,
side.
yeah.
So that's a lot better, isn't it?
Wait, I just want to try something. I just want to see something.
Hang on, this is a bit stiff. I think we might have some filings in there. We need to clean that whole up. So there you can see we now have clearance on the perpendicular face of the valves, or of that valve, and that's what we're looking for. And that's about as far as I'm prepared to go. I don't want to cut too much into this and take off too much meat at this point. This is an exhaust valve, so we do want as much clearance as possible, but so that perpendicular face is only about 2 millimeters, and I think we've got about 1.5 millimeters there exposed at the moment. So I'm actually happy with that. So what I think we should do with all the others is just give them a very light cut with that flat cutter. And I noticed one of these, that one there, is a little bit bigger than I'd like it to be, so we can take that one down a bit. But all the others, if we just basically, it's like deburring. Do you know what deburring is?
No.
So when you cut something, you always land up with like splinters on the cut edge. Think about when you're cutting a plank.
Yeah.
The outside edge always gets like splinters on it. Well, those are in metal. Those are called burrs. What we want to do is just take those off. So we're just going to do like a very brief shaving.
Okay.
And essentially just to clean them up. And then on that one there, we'll just take it down a little bit because that sealing face is a little bit bigger than the others. So we will just give that one a little bit more. Okay, for the next job that we need to do is to remove this white metal plug here. We've talked about this on a previous video. I've then got a 3/4 inch BSP tap. And what we're going to do is we're going to tap that hole, and then we're going to insert this brass plug in that hole to seal this off. That will last a lot longer than the white metal plug. And also, again, we talked about these cracks. You've got 3 of them over there. So we're going to be putting quite a copious amount of Loctite. I've got Loctite 515, which I'm going to be using on that. And I'm hoping that that's going to seal off and prevent any coolant from leaking out of this area into the main top, the top of the head here, which is where we want lubrication, not water. Right, now a piece did fall in there, so I'm going to have to try and get that out. There's probably a couple of other bits in there, no doubt, from the drilling. But so I'm going to need to clean that up. But what we now want to do is run this tap down there and just clean up those threads. And then we can run the brass plug down. So we'll just get a spanner for that. Now this is a tapered thread, so we don't want to go too far down, otherwise you essentially lose the taper. But at the same time, we need the brass plug to go quite far down so that we can be sure that it's sealed off these cracks. So I will test it in a minute. I think we'll test it there and just see how far down the brass plug is going. We can see on the tap it pretty much went down to there, which is just where the taper starts leveling off. Okay, that's already tightening. I think I might go a little bit more with the tap. Yeah. Okay, that's gone quite a way down now. That's better. Right. So now we see we've got about half the thread of the plug now to tighten, and that's roughly what we're looking for. Remember, we need to be able to position this with a flat, parallel with this gasket face here. So we need a little bit of, let's call it maneuverability on this bolt, on this plug as well. See, for example, if we were going to leave it there with that face parallel here, but obviously we'll go a bit more, but essentially that's what we're looking for. And the point is we could go more if we needed to, because we still got a bit of thread there. That's essentially what we're looking for. So we want it to be tight. It needs to be tight, obviously, to seal. But at the same time, we need to decide where it's going to stop. So we'll take that out. We'll get all this cleaned up. We're now going to wash the head completely, rinse it out, all the channels inside. Make sure we get rid of all of the metal filings from, from reaming the guards, from cutting the valve faces, cutting this thread, doing all the lapping. There's obviously now a lot of different bits and pieces on and in this head. We need to make sure we flush all of it out. So for that, we're going to make sure we get all this tape off on all the different orifices, and we're going to flush it with kerosene, and then we're going to blow it out with air to make sure that we've got every little bit out. And yeah, when we've done all that, we'll come back. We'll put this plug in permanently with the Loctite, and then the next job, and I think actually will be the next video, is we'll be installing the valves, and we'll show you how to do that. Right, Oscar, now we've given the head a good bath. We've sprayed every possible opening with kerosene and then sprayed it out with air. And we got huge chunks of filings out from the white metal plug. So now it's time to put the brass plug in with loads of Loctite. You see how that crack goes all the way through, that one and that one. So if we don't Loctite it, then that the coolant which is sitting inside here is going to leak out into here, and this is all where oil needs to be. So we'll end up with coolant in the oil, which we don't want.
Why isn't that just completely metalled over? Why isn't it just
So
one piece?
they must have needed that, for example, to channel out the inside of the head to make the channels, or for some reason they needed that open, and so so now we need to seal it basically. Okay, so the first thing is make sure that our plug fits nicely, which it does. Now we've got a good amount of thread on there to tighten it down nice and tight. Now the interesting thing, or the important thing, Oscar, when we finish tightening this, one face has to be parallel with this, so that when the tappet cover gasket goes over, it's not going to catch on one of these corners. So we have to make sure when we've finished tightening it that one face is parallel with this face here. Okay. So we get a spanner for that.
Oh yeah, that's difficult.
Hang on. That's very thick, isn't it?
I don't know what it's supposed to be like.
Well, it's definitely not supposed to be on the floor. Ah! You have to clean that up. And you normally wouldn't use this much Loctite, but because of these cracks, I want to make sure that we've got more than we need, if you see what I mean. Okay. I'll put the lid back on that. Hang on. the lid back on. Oh, let's just wipe it. Okay, now I put the lid back on.
Thank you.
Right, let's get this plug in. Okay. Right, tighten it. And we got more power pulling, right? Turn your wrist the other way. Turn your hand around, that's it.
That actually feels like I've got less.
Okay, well, let's see where the flat is. Okay, so now you want to turn it so that that flat is straight.
What?
That flat needs to be straight.
Okay.
A little bit more. Just a touch. A little bit more. A little bit more. Let me do it. There we go. Perfect. And I'll just wipe up the excess Loctite. Now the way Loctite works is it basically only starts setting when there's pressure on it. Although eventually it will air dry, which is why we want to wipe this up. But it goes hard, as in it sets properly when it's under pressure. Okay. Right, well I think hopefully that will seal and it will give us years of good service. That's what we're looking for. All the engine parts are being cleaned except the rocker cover. Looking inside this rocker cover reminds me how filthy this engine was. Look at this gunk on here.
Oh yeah.
It's terrible, isn't it? It's like tar. Throw that in the bin, please. Right, I can't remember which way this goes. I'm guessing it would have to go that way. But there you go, that's sitting perfectly on there. It's not being held up by that plug. Right. Well, I think that's it for today, Oscar. Next week what we're going to do is we're going to install the actual valves, right? So we'll run them all in. We've now got them, they're all been marked up. So you've got there number 1, so that one will go there, number 2, that one will go there, and so on and so on. They've all been lapped in, which is why it's important that they go back in the same place. And we've sorted this out, so yeah, next week we can put the valves in, put the rocker cover, put the rocker arms on, and well, not really, because actually we need the push rods to be in properly for that to go in properly. So no, we won't do that. We'll just put the valves in, and then we'll seal the head. We'll wrap it up, keep it nice and clean. And we'll start the following video, then we'll start on the engine.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool, isn't it? Right, let's cover this up for the week, for now. and we'll also cover up the valves. So if you get some paper just to cover the valves there. We've got all the valves sitting here ready to go into the head. I'll just cover them up so they don't get dusty during the week. Excellent. Alright, cool. Well, thank you, Oscar. Thanks for your help today. And we thank you, the viewers, as well, for joining us. We hope that you found this interesting in some way. Hopefully you've learned something. We certainly did during the week. And again, thank you to Hooter700 for his advice on how to basically lower the surface of the head around the valve lapping, or around the valve seat, so that we have a good opening and clearance when the valve opens. Hope that you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video. Cheers for now.
Bye.